Hello and welcome to the Now Spinning Magazine podcast with me, Phil Aston. And in this episode, I'm absolutely delighted to have with me Tony Martin, one of the UK's most underrated rock vocalists. And you've had a really varied career, but what we're going to talk about today specifically is Black Sabbath and the new Anno Domini box set. Yeah. So welcome, Tony. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. Very cool.
A bit of context, because I think this is kind of helpful for you to, in a way, perhaps. My son is 30 now, but when he was 15, he set up a Facebook group, kind of saying one day, please can we have the Tony Martin Black Sabbath albums released? It's 15 years ago, so he was still at school, half his lifetime ago. And I think in the early time when he set this up, he may have reached out to you and you might have said something like, I don't think it's going to happen, Dan. And here we are.
Yeah.
All these years later, and it's not only happened, but it comes out this Friday. How does that feel to know that these albums are now going to be available again?
Well, first of all, well done to your son. It took it 15 years, but he got it. He got it done. To be honest, there's been a few periods when I think it was happening, and in fact, about a year ago, Tony Iommi's manager called me and said, "Do you know what? This is just so complicated. I don't think we can do this." And so I was resigned to it not happening myself. And it's all to do with band politics, really. That's all it is. There are so many people that involved or have their fingers in the pie that they all have to be on board, and there was allegiances changing all over the place, left, right, and centre, and it's come on. And so in the end, it was getting a bit tiring, but well done to Tony Iommi and BMG. My God, they've such patience that they showed to get this thing together and actually get it out there. Wow. Anyway, but how does it feel? It feels brilliant, to be honest. I'm very excited. I haven't actually had these albums in my own hands physically for the past 25 years. I gave all mine away thinking I'd be able to get some more, and I didn't. They just stopped making them. So to actually physically hold them again is really cool. And what a great job they've done of it. So I'm thrilled and excited, and I'm helping out now because I'm not in the band obviously anymore. So I just offered my help to help promote it, and they said, "Great, yeah, let's do it."
But isn't it amazing that, because I've done quite a few reviews about Black Sabbath box sets and stuff, but this one within about 12 hours, there's literally 12,000 views of the review, and the love and for this period of Black Sabbath is actually huge. It's grown. It almost feels as if the profile is higher now than it was at the time for this.
Yeah, there is a kind of reason for that. Partly people have got over it's the new guy thing. And also, it's 25 years since. And so now we're reaching out to a whole other group of people. Which is in addition to those that were already there. But, to the outside world, it looks like there was a huge, and to me, it felt like a huge, 25-year gap. But actually, the fans were always there. I mean, I've been waiting myself as well. But, to get this back out there, and it's just band politics, really. That's all it is.
Because you had that period, actually, when it's almost as if this part of Sabbath's history was almost hidden, because of band politics. As if none of this really happened, which I think probably stirred up more interest and kind of people wanting to find out more.
Possibly, it could be. It's an old, a famous thing, ain't it? If something ain't around for a while, people start talking about it. Well, where's that gone, sort of thing. But it's a strange thing, the music business, and you're either in fashion or you're not, kind of. But I'm just thrilled that they've got around it, and just like I said earlier, just the patience that they've shown to actually put this together, because at one point they were just saying, we can't do it. We just can't do it. So great. I'm really chuffed anyway.
I mean, I imagine there's been compromises along the way. Lots of fans who probably don't understand how complicated the politics and all the different licenses and everything that goes on over the years. They become more and more entangled. People say, where's Eternal Idol? But of course, that was a different record label. It's probably different people own it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's owned by somebody else. And also Eternal Idol, Eternal Idiot, as we call it, it was kind of re-released not that long ago, really.
That's right, with a 2 CD version, wasn't there? Yeah.
Yeah, so they were kind of thinking, well, there's no real panic because that's already been done. And,
true.
Let's just move on kind of thing. Because that would have wrapped them up in contracts for centuries, I think. I can't even think that they'll ever get them to let that go. But there's, they were struggling to get like the people that are involved with these four, to sort of make up their minds and do stuff. I've been all for it all the way along. I have to say, obviously, because it's my career, it's my history. It's not just the band's history. It's 10 years of my life that went AWOL. So
that's very true.
Yeah, no, I've been, up for it all the way along, but some people don't, and it's taken them a while to sort of get on board.
Well, I think it's fantastic. Now, the first one was Headless Cross.
Yeah,
and you've joined one of the biggest brand names of a rock band at the time, with all that history behind it. And you obviously an established singer with the Alliance, and obviously, but this was a chance. It's, as you say, Eternal Idol. You went in and it was already prepared. You sang it, but this one was where you could really put your mark on it, your personality, lyrically as well as musically. What can you remember what it was like actually being at the beginning of that? Did you feel comfortable around Iommi and Powell and thinking, right, I'm going, what kind of lyrics am I going to do? And
by Headless Cross, I was comfortable by then. Well, kind of. Well, the thing is, the Eternal Idol. If I can just backstep a little bit, the Eternal Idol wasn't the first call up. The first call up was in 1986 when they were doing the Seventh Star thing with Glenn Hughes. And that scared me to death because I can't sing like Glenn Hughes. Nobody can sing like Glenn Hughes. And they put me on standby back then. And so I'd sort of tentatively had an introduction to Tony Iommi back then. And then 87 came and they got me in for the audition. And that was the next introduction to Tony Iommi. But because Eternal Idol was already written, that gave me a whole year plus a bit more to find out what this thing was. What the hell was I supposed to do? And so, just doing Eternal Idol like that was fine by me because I didn't have to sort of, discover anything myself back then. It gave me a chance to sort of get my feet in. So by the time I'm getting there, so by the time I get to Headless Cross, okay, so now I know all the guys and I kind of know what's expected of me. I still had to find the me that I needed to find. And I kind of went around it. Really, the only way I could go around it is by the things I was interested in. I couldn't do the lyrics and melodies that Geezer was writing for Ozzy because that was a generation before me. They were coming out the 60s into the 70s.
Very true.
Sort of that, sort of thing. And then the stuff that Ronnie was doing, it's fantastic stuff, but couldn't get inside his head to find out how he was coming up with that stuff. Yeah. There's no point in trying. So I did have to sort of think what I was going to do. And what I did was I had an interest in like the old gothic death stuff like Dracula and Frankenstein and all that Shelley type writing stuff. And also, of course, in England, we have Shakespeare and so nobody speaks English like that anymore. That old English text, And I thought, wow, okay, old English text, gothic death. and Black Sabbath. That might work. So I put them all together and came up with Headless Cross, which is where I lived. I lived in a village called Headless Cross.
Yeah, so you put that on the map, really.
Yeah, they weren't pleased about it. The most recognition I got my name on a bus stop.
And Cozy Powell thought the album needed more death, didn't he?
Oh, that's true. That's actually true. We was recording when Death Calls, and he was in the studio actually playing, and he just suddenly stopped. And we went, "You're right." And he went, "Yeah, just remind me, what's this song called again?" And I said, "It's called When Death Calls." He said, "I don't think there's enough death in it. We need more death." And carried on playing. So, oh, okay, maybe he's taking the piss, sort of thing, you know.
But isn't it such a great sounding album? And as Tony Iommi says, he never left Black Sabbath. So when people were kind of criticizing him, saying, should change the name or whatever, he never left. So it was still the riffs, his guitar sound was reaching new peaks of excellence really around this time.
Well, because there's a few reasons. Like Iommi was, when there was like just him and Ozzy, for example, guitar, that was it. They only had guitar. When Jeff Nichols joined and he was doing the Dio period, started to introduce a few more keyboard things, and then that allowed Iommi to play solos against those keyboard pads and chords and stuff like that. That expanded it. And then I come along and start sticking 50 tracks of vocal harmonies on it, like in Anno Mundi and stuff like that. And then it sort of, they just kept developing, if you know what I mean. Well, Sabbath isn't really known for vocal harmonies and keyboards, but underneath that was still Tony Iommi, and it still sounded like Sabbath. And we were happy to do that. I mean, in the band, we just wanted to make Tony happy, and do the best for him because, well, it was his band, and so we were happy to sort of, search out that Sabbath sound and make sure it did what it said on the tin.
Yeah.
A couple of times, like with the Seventh Star thing, he sort of ventured a little bit away from it, and songs like Heart Like a Wheel doesn't really make the Black Sabbath sound, but it's still good stuff. And I have great respect for all of the eras that went before. I had to sing all of the songs, so I do have great respect for it, and it's been an honor, like being part of the whole story. But he was the only one that sort of stuck it out. And, we respected him for that. And you're right, they did ask him to change a couple of times. He just said, no, I can't change,
Yeah, why should he? The next one, if I pronounce this right, it's Tia.
Yeah. Tia Tour. Yeah.
Because when it came out, me and my friends, actually, because there was no internet back then and nowhere to go and check it, we did call it TYR. To be.
Yeah. Yeah, Tyre.
Yeah, Tyre.
Like you're from Birmingham, you know what I mean?
Oh, Tyre.
That's just a Tyre. What's this Tyre?
Tia. So it actually rhymes with beer, doesn't it? Ish.
Yeah. Actually, it's Tour.
Tour.
Which is like, Scandinavian
I had no chance in Birmingham pronouncing that.
Yeah, it's sort of Scandinavian for, I don't know, it's the son of Odin or something.
Yeah. Well, this is almost as close probably to Sabbath getting to almost to a concept album, isn't it? This is a collection of songs that in another time and space, you probably as a band would have gone out and performed the whole thing.
Yeah, kind of. It wasn't meant that way, but they were actually struggling to find a name for the album, and we were in recording that. We were getting towards the end, and the management called us up and said, "We really need a name for this album." And Cozy said, "I've got one." I said, "I've got a great idea." I said, "Go on then, what's that?" He said, "Let's call it Satanic Verses." We went, "What? Like the Salman Rushdie thing?" And he went, "Yeah, it would be great publicity." I said, "Yeah, but we'll all be dead."
Yeah, momentarily, yeah.
So, we did struggle, but they sort of happened across that artwork.
Yeah.
And we'd done Anno Mundi, we'd done the Gates of, Valhalla and all that sort of stuff. And they sort of went, what if? And I went, yeah, cool. Okay, it was fine by me. So it sort of lent that way. and it took on the Viking sort of theme, really. By which time, actually, I was kind of thinking, once I'd done Headless Cross, and I'd started to, because I had an interest in the Vikings and stuff. As you know, the Vikings haven't been particularly good for us over here. Yeah. They sort of came over and stole all our women and all our sheep and, whatever. But I had an interest in that as well. So I was kind of thinking, well, every culture, every religion has got its dark side.
Yeah.
There's always a devilly type, and a goddy type. Yeah. So I thought, actually, we could go around the world and I could do this. I thought, you could pick up on all sorts of cultures and pick out, the dark side of various things. But it was the last time, kind of. I still sort of did that with various other songs and various other artists, but Tia was leaning towards that theme.
It's an excellent album. But then, of course, the strangeness of the politics and Sabbath is Dehumanizer comes along and Dio re-enters the scene. And you obviously had an opportunity, so there's obviously something, every cloud, you can go off and do your solo album at this time. But you did kind of like, Dio it sounds like it wasn't, it sounds like it was almost a forced relationship, the way that he was and he wasn't. I mean, how was that period for you? Because you did demo some of the tracks, didn't you?
Well, firstly, it was in shock. I mean, I didn't see that coming at all. Literally just walking out the door and to the next writing rehearsals, and my managers called up and said, they don't want you to go. But and I've only sort of recently found this out, although I had my suspicions. Tony Iommi said that the record label just wasn't supporting it. They weren't getting behind us really at all, and then they started banding about all different names and stuff, and Ronnie's name came up, and they thought they'd give it a go. He said, but it was all like on and off all the time, and they couldn't really, what's going on, sort of thing. Well, after they'd sort of let me go, then it wasn't too long before Tony called me back and said, can you come back? I went, no, I can't. I'm doing my solo album. He said, all right. And then a bit more time went, and he called me back again and says, you sure you can't come back? I said, I'm doing my solo. I really can't. He said, well, do you want to come down and try? So I did. I did have a go. And I went down and had a look at it and tried to put my voice on some of the songs, but it would have meant rewriting everything, and they weren't going to do that. So I sort of said, probably the best thing is if you can finish this, with Ronnie, get this done and out of the way, then maybe we can talk again later. So that's kind of what happened. By which time I'd done my solo album, which, to be honest, I just wanted to get as far away from the Sabbath thing as I could at the time. So I went back to doing the Alliance and some other bands I'd been with, that middle of the road AOR type stuff. But then when they called me and they did get me back in to Sabbath, Polydor dropped my solo album like a brick. They said, we can't do this if you're going to go back with them. So then that got stopped. Dear, it's so confusing. But by the time I got back with the guys to Cross Purposes, it didn't feel that much of a gap for me, because I've been like talking to them and working with them through the Dehumanizer thing. But
stylistically, that album, because it was on the IRS label, and I know some people have said, well, it should be in there. So it's stylistically, it's musically, it's very different. I mean, if you take it out, it doesn't. These 4 albums in this set, excluding Eternal Idol, they sound like a progression, and Dehumanizer sounds like a kind of sidestep. Even the way the riffs are done in the songs, it's not. It's changed. You know what I mean? It's like you've taken the vocalist out, but the music continued. It took you out, and it was very different.
I suppose it does a bit. And if I go back and sort of think over it, I guess that's what it was. It was kind of it was kind of an interruption, wasn't it, into the flow of things? Because when we were doing tour,
yeah,
I thought we were doing really well. I thought I thought we were onto something.
Yeah,
and so that it then Dehumanizer in that sort of respect kind of does feel a little bit like an interruption, but there was some good stuff on there, and Ronnie's always been a good singer, so I don't quite know how they feel about it, but it was kind of nothing to do with me.
Yes.
I just let them get on with it.
So after that, Cross Purposes is probably out of the 4 albums on this set, this is actually my personal favorite. And Geezer's back in the band now, so you've got his bubbling bass in there, and again, lyrically it's all you. I mean, did you feel any kind of, Geezer's back, will he want to help out with the...
I did ask.
Yeah, you did, yeah?
Yeah, I did ask. He just said, no, you can do it. That's all I said. So I just carried on.
But the reason why I love this album is that it's varied. And I think a lot of people think of Black Sabbath being like, the godfathers of heavy metal, and heavy metal is always like, heavy metal now is like an album is just heavy metal. But if you think about, even back to like albums like Sabbath Bloody Sabbath in the 70s, they weren't all heavy metal, but there was all sorts of things on there. There was kind of keyboards and, light and shade. And this I felt was a kind of connected to that album because you had light and shade on it. So there was more dynamics in the lyrical delivery and the song delivery, in the way that Iommi is weaving his riffs around the melodies. I mean, what are your thoughts looking back on this album now?
I think you've just summed it up. I don't have to answer that now.
That's okay.
It was, how do I say, a bit of a change of gear. It did sort of shift up a notch, not only that, but the sound that they were getting, with Leif Masses producing it, it sort of grew up, it sort of lifted somehow out of what they'd done before. So it felt like this sounds good. But you're right. The songwriting and the exploring that we were doing with the songs and stuff. And actually, at the time, Geezer Butler said, "It's the best album I've ever been on." He never said that again, but like he said it at the time. I can imagine him saying just that. Yeah. But it was good, and having Bobby Rondinelli in the band as well, who's technically amazing, brilliant. Plays with his drums close in, and he plays with his wrists very, technical sort of thing. Whereas Cozy, his drums were stretched out far and wide, and he'd lean over and hit them But great to have them both in, and what an honour. I mean, it's Geezer Butler as well. So
because when you got to South America, Bill Ward was in a few gigs, wasn't he? So because that must have been quite surreal, because Bill Ward and Geezer are probably playing songs like Headless Cross, aren't they? Which they had nothing to do with.
They had nothing to do with, no. We were. It was kind of weird because once we'd started to get Geezer and Bill back in, then they wanted to start doing more of the older songs.
Yeah.
And just that makes you read between the lines, going, "What's going on here?
Where's this going?" Yeah.
Because once it's happened to you, it's like then you're reading between the lines, you start to feel it, then and you go, something going on here, like you can feel it. They're sort of cluing up. And I did ask her if they were going to do a reunion with Ozzy, and Naomi was always denying it. She says, no, don't do that. But I didn't mind. And the reason for that is because I knew what I could do in the future then. And I thought, well, if they just tell me, that's fine, because then I can plan, whatever. The first time it was a shock and I didn't know what to do, but I was kind of keyed up for it this next time. But he kept going, and they got Bill in, and I love Bill. I think he's brilliant. You're right. We did some shows with him, but for some reason, I don't know what it is that. I mean, I can tell you, and tell everybody that, you know, Iommi loves Bill. You know, it's regaled so many stories about, you know, when they were out there and how funny it was and all that stuff. So I never understood why they never gave him time to sort of get back in it. I mean, when you think of like Def Leppard and they made a drum kit for a one-armed drummer.
Yes, very true. Yeah.
Surely,
yeah.
surely they can sort of find time to get Bill settled back in. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Whatever problems they've got. I mean, come on.
You would think, yes, very true, very true.
Just get on with it, sort of thing, you know. And then I thought, right, okay, this is going to go south again, but it didn't. And then we sort of carried on with Forbidden. And then Cozy came back after his accident and that. So it was really up and down, confusing, people in and out and stuff. I mean, the time that I was in the band, I think there was 8 different band lineups.
It was very much a revolving door, wasn't it? Now, before we move on, I just want to ask, because I know a lot of fans ask this, is that in the booklets, in these box sets that have come out, vinyl and CD, there's obviously an image of Cross Purposes live, and that was like a VHS tape and a CD. Is there a reason why that wasn't included in some way? Is that again politics or
right? I did ask about that, and they were just keen to get on with it, and they sort of said, right, come on, let's go, let's do it. And what they told me was that they're going to take their time now to see what else they can gather, and then like do an additional thing to this, you know, along the way with more of that in it, you know, with the Cross Purposes live and some other stuff. I mean, there's a track that I recorded with them when Eddie Van Halen came and did a song.
Yes, yeah, Evil Eye, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I used to have this 8-track tape player, and I had it everywhere. Took it everywhere, writing sessions, recording sessions, you know, rehearsals and all sorts of stuff. And I just happened to be there when, actually, I didn't even know he was coming. Iommi just turned up with Eddie Van Halen and went, fucking hell, it's Eddie Van Halen. What's he doing here? And
didn't see that coming. Yeah,
he sort of did some rehearsals with us and he disappeared and never saw him again. But I got the recordings of the rehearsals that we did.
Oh wow!
So I sent them to Tony Iommi. I said, use these.
Yeah,
let's get these on. He says, no, we can't. So all right. And the reason they said was anything that has the slightest newness about it, it looks like a new Black Sabbath track. Yeah. And they're not allowed to release anything new under the Black Sabbath name. So, you know, they could sort of say, well, that's not the original. So even if it's historical, they couldn't allow it. It's just really weird.
So that means because there must be lots of live stuff recorded, because more bands were recording live stuff from the 90s onwards that you couldn't work on because it would go out under the Black Sabbath name.
Not just live stuff. I mean, I've got about 8 tracks that we never released, and just from the writing sessions and rehearsals and stuff that we used to do. And I think it just can't get them out there. Just you know, they just won't allow it. So, you know, I don't understand. Well, I kind of understand. I mean, you know, when you're trying to protect your name, your mark, your image, your everything, which is where the band politics comes in. They won't allow you to do anything that they think. And there's all kinds of they. Mm. Everybody from, you know, Ozzy, Sharon, Dio, Wendy, everybody. Yeah.
Lots of
they don't want their thing to be diluted or taken away. And I do understand that. So there are people involved, you know, all along the way that have an objection of some kind or other.
But I guess hopefully this box set's going to sell out really quickly, and will show there's a demand there for this material and for this part of Black Sabbath history. Yeah. There's a lot of love for it, and a lot of people worked really hard within it, like yourself, and they're great albums, wonderful songs. And if there's there's other music in the wings, it's you know, well, as we all get older, thinking through the eyes of the fan, that it would go down so well, wouldn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
But I am, as you are, very grateful that these 4 albums have arrived in a box.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's an important thing for me. It's an important thing for the band, and it's a great thing for the fans. But I'm thrilled. I mean, it's been an honor to be part of the story, you know, and I love the fact that it's sort of out there now. And they did say there is no limit to the box sets. They have sold out on day one.
I'm not surprised.
They said the way they do it is they tend to poll the outlets and stuff and say, how many do you think you can sell, kind of thing, and they put their numbers in, and they've gone way past that. Yeah. Why didn't you tell us? You know, so now they've got to go back and sort of produce more. A little bit of a flow thing, but apparently there's no limit to it, and I love what they've done. I mean, there's more in the box set than just the albums. There's posters.
Posters, program, and everything,
all sorts of stuff.
And then Forbidden. I'll be honest, Tony. When I heard this for the first time back in the day, I didn't like it. I thought I didn't like it. I tried, but I didn't like it. My son liked it because I think probably because his dad didn't. But now the remix,
God.
It's as if someone's released the drums and the guitars, and it's like. It sounds like a Black Sabbath album. Well, it sounds fantastic, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, it's brilliant. I love the fact that they've dismantled it and put it back together. In a way that they couldn't or didn't with the other 3. Forbidden needed it for all kinds of reasons. You know, it was done under a sort of cloud. Where, you know, a lot of us weren't really into it very much. But it was also an attempt at trying to give Sabbath a kind of acceptable twist to the youth.
Yeah.
And it didn't work, you know. And
well, the 90s were weird, weren't they? The 90s were strange for heavy rock. Yeah.
The problem was we were fast heading towards, you know, great new bands like Nirvana and Nine Inch Nails and, you know, eventually Green Day and even Metallica were doing stuff, you know, and we were going, and they were trying to change the sound, you know, to sort of fit in. It didn't work. We didn't think it would. But you know what? There are people out there that love Forbidden as it is. And I said that to Wyoming last time I saw him. You know, there's people out there that love it. And he went, oh no. He said, they'll probably this version now. But
you know, Shaking the Chains, Guilty as Hell, Rusty Angels, Forbidden, and of course, Loser Gets It All is a great track, and that wasn't even on the album originally, was it? It's brilliant.
Yeah, strange, isn't it? I mean, I absolutely love it now, and it does sound like a Black Sabbath album. It sounds like it should be there. In amongst the others, to me, they've done a great job. Tony and his engineers have really, you know, pulled it together. It's slightly more guitar-y, slightly less keyboardy.
Yep.
They've done Cozy's drums, a fantastic job on those.
They're just unleashed, aren't they? It's just
freed them up completely.
Yeah.
They haven't changed anything. It's just that, you know, they've mixed it and given it a new attitude, you know, which is really brilliant. What else have they done? I mean, they've just given it more space. You know, it sounds bigger. And I just love what they've done to it. I'm really proud of it now. I didn't like it there. There's still a couple of tracks where I would love to have gone back in and, you know, I thought at the time, because we was that off it at the time. I just, my head just wasn't quite there. And you know, a couple of tracks I thought, I could have done better than that. And I did sort of say when they was, you know, doing it, I said, can I go back in and check? No.
I suppose because that might edge towards it being a new thing. Yeah.
New recording then.
Yeah. Tricky,
so anyway,
tricky.
I'm not going to tell you which tracks it is, but there was a couple in there that I wasn't quite happy. But on the whole, mate, it's a great job that they've done.
Were you at the end, because when you were playing live, there were more of songs from your period in Sabbath coming into the set, weren't there? Because I think you were unique vocalist in many ways for the band, because you could cover Ozzy, Dio. You probably could have done
Right.
Zero the Hero by Gillan, anything. You could have just, whereas we always have that situation with the band as a new singer that, or the original singer. Well, I'm not singing that because it's nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
But you are someone who say, well, I can do whatever you want. You could have the ultimate set list, really, go through every era.
That was a bit of a mistake. I told them I can sing anything. Really? Okay. So then it's like, what can we give him to sing? And so they were throwing all sorts of stuff at me. Wait a minute. Anyway, they sort of kept going, and I gave it a go. I had a shot. Fortunately, I've got the kind of voice that can get round most things, and that's a result of being in so many different kinds of music. I mean, I've been involved in everything from reggae to rock.
I mean, who were your kind of key vocal influences growing up? Because as you say, outside of this Black Sabbath badge, as you say, your voice can go in any direction, can't it? So who were your influences? Was it blues, soul, rock? It
kept changing. Honestly, everything I listened to, went, oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. And so I just as each sort of couple of years went by and something else took my attention, I'd really sort of pour my soul into it. I mean, I started off with reggae, believe it or not. And in fact, I worked with Musical Youth and Dex's Midnight Runners in the studio.
Yeah.
Musical Youth. And I was a guitarist back then. And then I used to love blues. I really got into prog rock bands, and I was into Yes and King Crimson and Jethro Tull and all sorts of stuff like that. And then it shifted. Oh, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Oh my God, that was brilliant. And then which led to Rush and bands like that. And then I had to sort of come down out of that prog rock technical stuff, because Sabbath is much more honest and basic and straightforward to a point. When you're in the band and you find out how he does it, it's just stunning. I mean, I never even gave it a thought, and I just thought, it's got to be easy, ain't it? It weren't easy at all. I mean, Iommi can put 7, 8 different riffs into one song, and each one of the riffs could be a song on their own.
Yeah, very true, very true.
And so I go, wow, to get your head around it is weird. And plus the time signatures he was throwing at us, there was like a 14/4 and a 15/8, something that he was throwing at us. How he gets his head around it, I just don't know. And when I saw him a few weeks ago, and he said, you know what, you did a really good job on this. I said, oh, thanks, man. He said, I actually don't know how you sang over some of this stuff. I said, neither do I. It's just mad, isn't it?
Because I suppose me saying, oh, you could, I can do anything. Iommi might have thought, oh, that means you might be able to put some of the songs in that Ozzy couldn't do into the set, or I can try something that I've never been able to do before, because Tony says he can do anything.
It's because I showed willing.
Yeah.
And I told him that I'd have a go.
Yeah.
And I did have a go. I did put into it. So the songs, the writing, the live shows, and I kind of made a rod for my own back in some ways, because it was hard flicking between all of the different vocal techniques and stuff like that. But I did my best, I thought, it sort of came across okay, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
The problem is sometimes when you try to do stuff like that, it can sound a bit like a tribute act, but we got it nailed, I think. And especially having people like Coast Pal, Geezer Butler, and all the guys in the band were just brilliant at that. And we were willing to seek out that Sabbath sound, and we were, conscious of it. So we were all aiming for the same thing, really. From outside, it might have looked like a chaotic mess, but on the inside, it all had a focus. We was all willing to give it a go, and that's what I think they saw in me. I knew they liked my voice, but I think that's what they saw, a willingness to have a go and see if you can make it work. And so all of those different time signatures and all those different riffs, I had to go.
I think looking back, to me, it's Black Sabbath. I mean, it's like I'm a Deep Purple fan, and every line of a Deep Purple is still Deep Purple. And I know Black Sabbath, there's lots of politics in the way some of the fans even look at it. But I think, which is why you had Heaven and Hell, later on instead of Black Sabbath because of the politics. But I think, yes, you could look back at this period and think, if you had another different name, would things have been different? But names are very important. But what's, I think, listening to these 4 albums, one after the other, is how you brought to life Viking mythology and songs, more death.
More death. More death.
And just your passion and the way that you projected the lyrics and your phrasing makes these albums unique, and I think an important part of the Sabbath story. Do you feel, finally, do you feel like this outpouring of love that this lineup's getting is validating everything? Any doubt that might have been back then?
Yeah, I mean, doesn't it just? And the biggest validation is from Tony Iommi himself. You know, it wasn't that I ever felt anyway, wasn't regarded that highly until you sort of sat and listened to it, and you haven't got the bickering going around your ears. And then, like I said, when I went down a few weeks ago and I saw him, he said, "You did a great job on this. There's fantastic songs on here." I said, "I know," but you know, it's just that validation that he gives it, and the fact that the fans are returning to it, and the fact that we've got new fans coming to it, whole new record labels, and I think it's Rhino in America.
Yeah.
It's BMG in UK, Europe. Yeah. That the record labels are coming back to it and they're getting behind it. They see something in it. The management sees something in it. And so it's just like this whole, it's all coming together, which is a shame because I'm not in the band anymore. Yeah, God, typical, ain't it?
But who knows? Who knows what might happen? Maybe you and Tony will think, I mean, it'd be great if some of this other stuff can come out at some point and we don't have to wait another 25 years.
If he was going to do that, he'd say, fuck it, let's just write some new stuff. But, from what I've been told anyway, Tony's touring dates are done now. He won't be going out on the road again, so that's probably out of the question. For writing, I did tell him I was interested, if he wanted to do something, but he's got so much going on. He's still busy.
Wow.
Doing stuff. I mean, he had that ballet, the Black Sabbath ballet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Never saw that coming.
No, who did? No.
And he's just working on all kinds of stuff. He's writing new material for something else now.
Yeah.
Mad. Absolutely mad.
So what about you, Tony? Have you got any plans for another solo album or physical project?
I never actually stopped. For the past 25 years, my career took me into the studio and writing for people, and so now my voice appears on 89 albums and projects or something like that now.
Wow.
So it's been good for me. It's where and to be honest, I mean, I owe everything to Black Sabbath because that's how the world got to hear my voice. And so, people know what they're talking about when they sort of talk to me, can you write, can you sing on this? Can you whatever? They already know what they're sort of hearing or expecting anyway.
Yeah.
And I always do try to make it better than what they sort of give me in the first place. So a lot of that is me in the studio, and I was happy, and I still am, happy doing that. But I do tend to choose what I do these days.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm still doing the odd thing for people now. But I did have a solo album that a couple of years ago called Thorns.
Thorns, yeah. Great album. Yeah.
It was good. Totally unknown guitarist from America, Scott McClellan, who I only met him because he kept badgering me on Facebook and kept sending me stuff like, go away. No, man, listen to this. What about this one? Yeah. And in the end, I listened to it and it was brilliant. So I gave it a go and that turned out really better. But then COVID interrupted that and we couldn't get out there with it because some countries were saying, yeah, you can come, and other countries said, no, you can't. And it all got distracted. Well, I haven't finished with Thorns because they wanted to do a vinyl for it, and they said we had to take some tracks off to get it to fit on the vinyl, and I don't want to take any tracks off.
Yeah, make it a double, yeah.
Yeah, they said, make it a double, write some more. I went, oh, wasn't prepared for that. So back it up. So then trying to write some new songs. Well, Scott has sent me loads. Now we've got enough tracks for like Thorns 2, but I haven't even finished Thorns 1 yet. So like I've got to come back to that, and I do want to finish that off and get that done. And then if we can do, the next Thorns thingy, whatever that might be, who knows? Then we'd like to, try and get it out on the road. But, getting out on the road for me is so different to like the Sabbath thing. The Sabbath machine is huge. And they only have to mention it, and all of the cogs start turning all at the same time, all the way around the world, and it all starts fitting into place, within days, within weeks.
Yeah, but on your own, it's a bit different.
I can't do that. I have to hire the musicians to sort of, go out on the road and rehearse the whole thing and start again with a brand new show and everything. So it's a lot harder for me, but I would love to get back out there. It's just that, my career took me into the studio. So I've got more to do, but I just tend to choose now.
If people want to get Thorns, is it darkstarrecords.net? Is that the best place to?
No, Battle God. They are the main. They're contracted to be the main label.
Oh, right, okay.
Darkstar were involved, and they're still there, but they've had some troubles in the past couple of years.
Okay.
And they were on board. And I did 2. It was the same album, but like 2 versions of it from between the 2 territories, and I liked that. But mostly now, Battle God is the label to grab hold of it. It's still available, and I'm still signing them. People send me the stuff to sign. Will you sign me? Yeah, okay. But I haven't finished yet, so there's more to come.
Brilliant. Well, thanks very much, Tony, for all of your time today. And everybody, make sure you go and get a copy on CD or vinyl of this Black Sabbath, Tony Martin Year's box set, Anno Domini. It's absolutely superb.
Yeah, it is good. Isn't it?
It's just fantastic.
Can't stop smiling. I think it's brilliant.
No. That's it, isn't it? Whatever anyone thinks, why didn't they add this? Could they put this in? These albums are available again.
Yeah.
People can hear just how awesome this time for Sabbath really was.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, take care, and hopefully I'll talk to you again in the future. Thank you.
All right, Phil, thanks, mate. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, a huge thank you to my guest, Tony Martin. That was fantastic, and I'm almost lost for words in knowing what to say to sum up on that interview, because I know a lot of you are really interested in this box set, Anno Domini by Black Sabbath, which is out on CD and vinyl. And just as I thought, it's sold out already, but there's going to be another pressing. But also I was able to ask some of the questions that I know some of you have been wanting to know. Why weren't there extra tracks? Why wasn't, any live cross purposes in there, etc. So now and some of it is really exciting, because it means that there might be a companion set with some outtakes or live stuff as well. So that's really, really exciting. But what a great guy. A fantastic vocalist, really passionate, really imaginative with his lyrics and his vision of how he writes his music. And these 4 albums are essential. They're Black Sabbath albums. Okay, that's what they are, and they sound like Black Sabbath albums. And wasn't interesting to hear that Cross Purposes, Geezer Butler said it's the best album he'd ever played on. It is a truly remarkable album, but they all are, from Headless Cross, from Tear, which I can now pronounce hopefully correctly, Cross Purposes, and Forbidden, which has been given a new lease of life. Seriously, it is incredible, but just stunning. So thank you again to Tony Martin for joining me here on the Now Spinning Magazine podcast. Please keep spinning those discs, wherever they are, whether they're vinyl or CD. Check us out on the podcast. We're on every platform you can think of, from Apple to Spotify to Amazon. And of course, we're on YouTube. So please subscribe and check out the website at nowspinning.co.uk. And remember, music is the healer and the doctor. So take care, and I shall see you all very, very soon.